Good morning. How's everyone doing today? Thanks for joining us again for another Facebook Live. I'm Dylan.
I'm John.
And today, John's going to go ahead with his mug again and tell you what he has.
I almost forgot. This one's hard to read. Thank you, Bank of America, for sending one over. It's black on black, so it's really hard to see, but appreciate you, Bank of America. Thanks for the mug.
A little different, but it is stylish. Again.
Yes, monochromatic.
There we go.
It's our word for the day.
Again, thank you everyone for joining us. Today we're going to continue our talk with technology and HR, but with a focus on employee relations. So we're going to get started with question one. How does technology support an employee lifecycle?
How does technology support an employee
life cycle?
Life cycle. So in a few different ways. First, there's a practical approach to it, right? So, excuse me. So in an employee life cycle, there's a lot of basics that a technology platform could provide. And so their employee experience allows them the flexibility to check PTO, to check on rate, to pull down their own verification of employment, pay stubs. As our HR pros listening know that, there's mortgages, car loans, reasons for verifications of employment or proof of income. A lot of that can be pulled down. In some of our more urban areas, they need to show the last few pay stubs when they're renting an apartment. In LA and New York and Philly and Chicago, places like that, they have to show proof of income even for a rental. So having their ability to be able to do that obviously should embolden folks to feel that the employer is taking care of their life cycle, not just while they're at work, but beyond work. Excuse me. But within work, part of the employee life cycle directly is influenced by technology because they can see a trajectory, right? Some organizations allow there to be transparency through technology in the org chart, in the pathing for promotion. And that doesn't always mean one path. Some technology platforms allow you to really speak to, learning, helping to push someone towards a managerial path, towards more of a training path, towards more of a defined path. That's where you get into those levels, level 1, 2, 3. Here are the things that you have to be able to show from a competency standpoint. Here are the ways in which you have opportunities to be invested in within the organization. And so our technology platform, either by various forms of content, enable you to do that, connected to certain conferences or third-party learning. And that life cycle can really be managed. Here's where we expect you to be. Gosh, excuse me. I don't know. The coffee's fine, I swear. Here's where we expect you to be by this point in your career here at the organization. So it also has an expectation to it that employees, I think by and large, want to know. They may not like it, but they need to know. Also, there's a practicality in the policy and procedure component as well. If you've got someone who's on a PIP, performance improvement plan, or they've had some discipline issues, they can look at that and understand, okay, here's the expectation in my life cycle here. Here's what's holding me up. I'm handling all of these deeper components, but I'm shooting myself in the foot because I can never get to work on time, or I've got the worst attitude when it comes to my supervisors. And it doesn't matter how much of this piece over here I'm doing, I'm really not a team player over here, and there's an expectation there as well.
I think you made a good point with to keep you on track with the checkpoints, because you don't want to, if you get misaligned with checkpoints and you don't have a steady system that keeps you going, you could, veer off and fall behind. But with those checkpoints, they'll keep you in line so you can keep going.
And it true. And it also is that some folks in the employee life cycle, they slip into maybe a bit of an entitled perspective. Because I've done A, B, and C, it therefore means I must get this. Well, have we been clear about that? They may look at Sue, who is at a certain level, and think that Sue has only done A, B, and C to get to that level. But they don't understand that Sue has done A through Z. And for whatever reason, Joe thinks A, B, and C are all that you need. Well, why? Why even let that person sort of set himself up for the year, 2 years it took for him to do A, B, and C, and then he's frustrated, right, that he's not getting what Sue has. Well, you're not getting it because you've got D through Z to do. Well, I didn't know that. Well, why don't we leverage technology better to help any of our employees know what that life cycle could look like? Because Joe may have made a decision a year and a half sooner to say, oh, forget this. I don't want that role for those reasons. But I'm now open to this other path. We have people in our organizations who ask to cross-train or leave one department and go into another. Are we keeping track of their skill sets, right? The competencies that they're starting to display, which includes those skill sets, those aptitudes, right? Are we paying attention to those things? I think a system should be put into place, particularly as our organizations grow, that can track that.
All right, moving into question number 2. In what ways can technology support learning as part of the life cycle?
Right, as I mentioned in the previous question, then there's an entire vein of technology that can do nothing but learning for you. So it manages both the applied skills. So if you're in a technical role, if you're in a role that has measured results, well, then there are skill training opportunities that can be done through video, through certain books to read, certain podcasts to listen to, as well as perhaps tracking some of the one-on-one or one-on-a-group internal instruction that goes on. And so that learning management system can keep track of all of that and give you confidence in the hard skills that are required for the job. Are they being met? Is someone refining their skills? They're brushing up on some things that they're not using as much as they used to, but we still want them to have that in kind of that arrow in their quiver. But also the soft skills, the communication, the collaboration, teamwork considerations. How do people do in leadership? We can also track that through a learning management system and allow technology to really support us in that. There, again, are videos in those regards. There's conferences to go to. There could even be components of coaching that are tracked through a tech system. And someone can really look and own, as part of their life cycle, where he or she is going. Right? This is the desire that I have. Here are the doors open to me as a result of the company putting this out there as a tech platform. It also comes back to the managers as well, who have to look at these tech systems and care about who's doing what. You'll have some folks that are really gangbusters to run in there when the door is open and they start watching all kinds of videos, writing some responses to what they've seen. They're in it. And if you're a manager or supervisor who hardly logs into the system, just opens it and says, oh yeah, Joe did these 3 things, and you're not really reading or responding or having a dialogue with Joe to say, hey, I saw that you watched the video on X. Tell me your thoughts on it. What was the one thing that stood out to you that you didn't know? What's the one thing that stood out to you that you did know but heard differently? And just start having these easy conversations. I'm not saying that everything has to be so over the top and formalized. For the next 45 minutes, we're going to discuss, okay, sometimes, but not all the time. Sometimes they're 10-minute things. Like grab a cup of coffee, walk into the break room, stand, whatever, and just say, hey, I saw you watch this. Tell me what you thought. I thought it was crap. Okay, that's okay. Why'd you think it was crap? Right? If this person thinks everything is crap, that may be a problem.
Yeah.
Right? But if the person's like, well, the person who was on the video just didn't seem to be in touch with the kind of clientele that we serve here in our organization, that may be true. That there may be reasons to have a nuanced difference in the frame of reference. That's okay. It's actually healthy for me to hear this employee share that, to say he or she has a pretty strong understanding of how we do what we do. I'm not going to hate them for that or take points off, so to speak, for that. But I can track all of that in this learning management system and then compile my notes in those quick combos that I have with people to say, 1 or 2 sentences and keep track of how the person's progressing through the curriculum.
And I think that's great how you mentioned podcasts and videos because there's so many different options you could have as an employee to learn more new information. And like you said, even talking to the boss, ask him why he feels a certain way about something. I think that, like you said, shows he has a lot of interest in it. He or she
Yeah.
has a lot of interest in it. So
And it
that's
also
definitely helpful.
requires the supervisors and managers to listen to these podcasts as well, watch these videos as well. If you don't, that will quickly become apparent, especially if it's disconnected.
Mm.
You know, I've had folks send me, "Hey, watch this video," and I watch it and think, "Why did you want me to watch this video?" You know, I understood it. It isn't that I had a hard time comprehending the video. I had a hard time understanding why you thought I should watch that video. Are you thinking I don't know how to do something? Are you thinking I should mirror what I saw there and hey, there's a platform for this? Hey, I thought about you because, you know, this video sucks and this person's talking about this topic and you could crush it. You know, or I've heard you talk about this, John, and you suck. This person's got a better perspective. I don't know why you're sending it to me. You've got to give me context. And if you haven't really watched it and you just think, oh, John might like this topic, that's all it'll ever be. And that doesn't really push my learning, right? So think about it the same way for each individual employee. Give them context. And then you can have an intelligent conversation with them after the fact.
All right. Going into our third and final question. How much of the employee experience should be accessible through technology?
As much as possible, right? So the employee experience, one of the things through the years, right? And I know that probably at this point we're into a decade, pretty close to, of systems giving employees accessibility into a system. Some of it's very basic. You know, I mentioned earlier, maybe a payroll system where you can see pay stubs and PTO. Okay. So call it 10 years of a lot more people having access to that. I think that has meant a lot for employees. They like the fact that they can get what they need when they need it in the basics. They're not dependent upon HR. It's also really good for HR to move beyond just sort of those transactional conversations. You know, they hear from employees a ton, but it really is just asking about how many hours do I have left and, you know, can I change my address, please? We're happy to help with that, but, you know, that's not really meaty. You know, the more that we can give an employee his or her own experience to manage that, I think we should. But then we can get much more sophisticated when it comes to skill development, when it comes to coaching and mentoring and training, which, by the way, are three different things. I'm going to say that again. Coaching and mentoring and training are three different things. I think sometimes we combine them so that we can tell someone, well, you're being coached. And then I look at the things that are going on. You're not being coached, you're being trained. But you don't know how to do these things, right? It's not coaching like Little League where you're showing someone how to hold a bat. That's teaching and training someone. Stand like this, hold the bat like that. That's okay. I'm not saying that that's bad. Just call it what it is. We're training you how to be better at this, right? We're giving you technical skills. But once we start to move into more complex areas, particularly as the roles rise, when you get into supervisory and management levels, when you get into senior technical roles and you've got to look down the pike for those up and comers, how do you translate information? You know, how do we manage that knowledge from your brain down to these other folks? I watch people in certain departments who, you know, at a level 3 level, and, you know, they look down their noses at the level 1 folks. I'm not going to tell you what I know. Why should I? Well, that's why you're a level 3. That's part of the expectation. And we want to manage that through each individual employee's experience. And technology can help leverage that. You know, Matt, did you teach Joe about this? Well, there is no well. You either did or you didn't. So if you didn't, okay, but now we're going to have to hold that to an accountable perspective. And your technology can help that happen. Either from events, you know, curriculum tracking, that kind of stuff.
And I mean, you make a great point with that because I'm young, so all I ever came up with.
You are young?
I am young.
Right?
You're not old. You're just a little older than me. But I'm young.
The bust and touch, right? Make fun of me and then touch my shoulder. That's
make
fantastic.
You feel better.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep going. I only was brought up with technology. That's all I know.
Yes.
In the workforce.
Yes.
So it's became a big helper to me because I can't imagine what it was like back then.
Way back then.
Way
Yes.
back then.
Way back then.
But I have to say that technology does make things go more smooth and
Yeah.
keep you on track.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
talking about.
That's a great word. I mean, if it's going to keep things going smoothly, ultimately that's part of its promise.
Mm-hmm.
But it also is meant to challenge as well. And I think, and there's some great people out there who are, if you're not familiar with Jason Everbrook from LeapGen, read some of his work in technology. It's meant to do more than just help a process be smooth, though it is. It also has the opportunity to challenge you, right? Technology can really just stare at you, right? A notification can remind you, we've got a path for you. You're not meeting it. You're not jumping into it. Come on, right? Let's do this. And you've got AI kind of mixed into this as well, where we're able to build systems to a degree that can do some of the tactical work that someone's doing. Well, that means we need you to be much more of a critical thinker. We can actually put things into place to help encourage you in critical thought from a technology standpoint, from a learning management standpoint. So it's exciting.
Well, there you go. That's it for today on Technology and HR, focus on employee relations. Thank you, John, for sharing your insight. Thank you, all of you who are joining us right now. And for those of you who are going to join us later, this video is going to be up on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube page. So if you want to go check it out, as well as our Instagram and Twitter. Until next time, we'll see you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. See you.